A single smile that no one expected to matter. A quiet reaction that suddenly stopped time. And in just one fleeting moment at the SMG TV Series Quality Awards 2026, Xiao Zhan made millions feel something real, while suddenly couldn't help but smile back. But why did this moment feel so overwhelming? The lights were soft, yet dazzling enough to blur the edges of reality. Cameras flashed endlessly, capturing every second, every glance, every breath. It was a night meant to celebrate excellence. But sometimes, the most unforgettable moments are not scripted. They simply happen. As the atmosphere inside the SMG TV Series Quality Awards 2026 reached its peak. One name echoed louder than the rest. Xiao Zhan. It started as a wave. It became a storm. Fans calling out his name, filled with emotion, admiration, and years of unwavering support. And there he was, Xiao Zhan, standing calmly, composed, almost untouched by the chaos around him. At first glance, nothing seemed different. But then, something shifted. His eyes flickered just slightly. His lips pressed together, as if trying to hold something back. Because in that very moment, it wasn't just noise reaching him. It was love, and love is something no one can ignore. He tried to stay still, professional, elegant, unshaken, but emotions have their own way of breaking through. The corners of his lips slowly lifted, not dramatically, not for the cameras, but gently. Honestly, that smile, it wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't calculated. It was real, and that's what made it unforgettable. For a brief second, the distance between idol and fans disappeared. There were no stages, no barriers, just a human being responding to the people who have stood beside him through everything. The room didn't need to grow louder, because somehow, that one soft smile spoke louder than any scream. And maybe that's why it hit so deeply. Because in a world where everything feels curated, this moment wasn't. But what made this moment even more unforgettable was not just what happened on stage. It was what happened off to the side. A presence that carried years of experience. A name that commands respect without needing to try. Suddenly, she wasn't the center of attention in that second. She didn't need to be, because sometimes the most powerful reactions are the quiet ones. As her gaze landed on Xiao Zhan, she paused. Not long, just enough for something to register. That smile, that unguarded, almost vulnerable expression, so rare in an environment where every movement is often calculated. And in that pause, something softened. Her eyes, her expression, her entire demeanor. And then, she smiled. Not a formal smile meant for the cameras. Not the polished expression of an award-winning actress. But something quieter, warmer. A smile that felt understanding. As if in that fleeting second, she wasn't watching a celebrity, but witnessing a human moment. A moment where fame stepped aside and emotion took over. For those who noticed it, the feeling was undeniable. It was like watching two worlds align. One, filled with the overwhelming love of fans. The other, grounded in quiet recognition. No words were exchanged. No gestures were made. And yet, it felt like a silent conversation. A conversation that said, "I see you." And perhaps that is what made it so powerful. Because in an industry where everything is often amplified, this moment was beautifully restrained. Soft, genuine, real, and somehow, that made it echo even louder. Moments like this don't announce themselves. They don't come with warnings. They don't wait for the perfect cue. They simply appear, and if you're not paying attention, you might miss them. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because what happened in that room that night was more than just a reaction. It was a reminder. A reminder of why people connect so deeply with someone like Xiao Zhan. Yes, there is the talent. Yes, there is the visual presence. But beyond all of that, there is sincerity. And sincerity is something the heart recognizes instantly. When he smiled, it wasn't just about acknowledging the cheers. It was about feeling them. Every voice, every call, every emotion carried by the fans who have followed him through every high and low. And in that one expression, he gave something back, not in words, but in presence. And that presence, it traveled from the stage to every corner of the venue, to every screen across the world. People didn't just watch it. They felt it. They paused. They replayed it. They held on to it. Because deep down, we all recognize authenticity when we see it. And maybe that's why it resonated so strongly. Because in a world filled with perfection, this moment wasn't perfect. It was human. And that made it unforgettable. When the night slowly moved on, when the lights dimmed just a little, and the noise began to settle, that moment remained. Not on the stage, but in the hearts of those who witnessed it. Because long after the awards are announced, long after the cameras stop rolling, what people remember are feelings. And that night gave them something rare. Not a spectacle, not a performance, but a connection. Xiao Zhan didn't need to say anything extraordinary. He didn't need to create a grand scene. All he did was respond, naturally, instinctively. And in doing so, he reminded everyone of something deeply simple, yet incredibly powerful. That behind every idol, there's still a person who listens, who feels, and who, in a quiet moment, can be moved just like anyone else. And maybe that is why this moment lingers. Why it keeps replaying, not just on screens, but in memory. Because it wasn't about fame. It wasn't about status. It was about something much softer. Something that doesn't need translation. Emotion. So now let me ask you something. If you were standing there, surrounded by thousands of voices, watching that one small, genuine smile unfold, would your heart have stayed still? Or would it have quietly melted just the same?